everyone, and welcome to the Soar to Success Summit. I'm Vanessa Levin, your host, and joining me on the stage today, backed by popular demand, is Melissa Leach. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be back.
Yeah, and we're so excited to have you. And in case you're just watching for the first time, I want to tell you a little bit more about Melissa and all of the wonderful things she does. So Melissa Leach is the creator of Leach Literacy Training, LLC, and she provides teachers throughout the United States with tools they need to create joyful classrooms full of readers and writers. She's a highly sought after literacy change leader, and she has served as a classroom teacher, a K-12 literacy and reading specialist, a state-level literacy specialist, and a professional development learning designer for the DC public schools. So we're excited to have you back, Melissa, because first of all, you are the expert when it comes to all things literacy and writing. So that, first of all, is why we're excited that you're here. But
thank you.
Second of all, the summit, the questions that we addressed during the summit, right? They're all based on comments and responses I've received from teachers all over the world. And one thing that I've been hearing a lot lately is my kids don't like writing, and I'm wondering what you, as a literacy and writing expert, how would you respond to this statement, especially in relation to this year's summit topic of play? What would you say about that?
Yeah, so it's one of those kind of shocking things that I hear, and no, don't say that can't be true. So one of the first things that I would ask a teacher to think about is kind of, well, what's your sort of predisposition towards writing, first of all, right? So if you're kind of like, my kids don't like writing, do you like writing? Mm-hmm. Are you bringing it into the classroom with that joy and that enthusiasm and that attitude of writing? The whole topic of the summit, writing is very playful at the age of the students that we serve. It can weave into their play and what they do. So I think that would be the first, thought is, how do you feel when it's writing time of day, if you will? So I'm hopeful that some of the things that we can talk about here today can help you find that joy and kind of find that enthusiasm. So we'll work a little bit just to kind of define writing, find its place in there. So that's the first question is, how do you feel about writing in your classroom? And then the second, thing, I guess I might be questioning, what is it that we're doing that we're calling writing? Because there may be some things that we're doing that we're calling writing that kids don't so much enjoy because they aren't as playful as they could be, and kids don't feel the ownership in it. It feels like something that it's, the teacher is telling them that they have to write rather than them having a reason to put something on a piece of paper, to communicate thought. So I think that's those two things is, how is the teacher bringing it? And then what does the actual writing instruction, time, materials, what do those look like? And how do we, kind of examine that?
Okay. That's awesome. So I think that you're, as always, spot on, because whenever we make these statements, these generalized statements, like my kids don't like writing, I think the appropriate response is always to ask a question and then, or, what next? And
can you tell me more about that? What about writing don't they like? And so when you ask that, well, what about writing don't they like? And they're like, when I say it's time for handwriting, all I get is groans.
Right.
Well, maybe. Right. So yeah, kind of asking a little bit more, questions to sort of get a little bit, deeper into that, I guess.
Yes. And these statements or questions, if you will, they are tools that we can use to then shape our instruction, right? So if we know that when we say it's time for writing or whatever, and we get groans, that tells us, as teachers who are responsive to the needs of our students,
right,
that maybe what we're doing needs to change to be more in line with how young children actually learn, which is through
Right.
play, right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It has been, I had the opportunity, as many of you watching probably did, months, back, to spend a lot of time at home, with my two beautiful boys. So I am, all the things that Vanessa said about me in like my, bio. I have a job. But the best work that I'm ever going to do is going to be raising these two boys. I know it deep in my soul. And so I have two boys. Wyatt is 4. He'll be 5 on Halloween. And then I have Jack. And Jack is a tornado 2-year-old. He's all things. But anyway, so I had a big opportunity to be able to be at home with them. And I was charged to also be a teacher of them, right? And so I've tried so hard in my mom life and my professional life to separate mom from teacher. But what was really cool was to be able to be at home with him, and to see all the things that he's able to do, and also be able to pull kind of out of my bag of tricks, to show him a little bit what he can do when it comes to writing, what he's capable of when it comes to that, and just trying to put as many playful opportunities to put, communication on paper, words, letters, whatever it, may be. So that was just really, really exciting. I wanted to show you a quick little picture of him because you might hear a whole lot about Wyatt. Oh my gosh, you see that kid?
He's so adorable.
Eat him. So that is my 4-year-old, my Wyatt. And I know that you are having classrooms full. A classroom full of 4-year-olds, very different than kind of that one-on-one, teaching that I'm doing. But I'm hopeful that I can share some things that we've done in our time together that can, and I've done in classrooms as well. But just that I've been doing, with him, that you could then transfer into your classroom for, oh my goodness, the 2020-2021 school year.
Absolutely. Yes. And Melissa's done work all over the country in many different capacities. And I believe the first thing you did was you were a kindergarten teacher, right? So
I started as a first grade, second grade, third grade teacher. No, I started, whoa. I started in a Head Start.
Well, there you go.
My first teaching experience. Yep. I was a lead teacher in a Head Start program. And then I went into first grade, second grade, third grade. And then I fell in love teaching kindergarten.
Yes. So she definitely knows what she's talking about here, in addition to all of her huge accomplishments all throughout the U.S. But so, that brings me, Melissa, to my next question then. So what is the purpose of writing, right? If it's not about like writing time, where everyone gets out their paper and crayons and does what I tell them to, what does it look like when it comes to young children ages 3 to 5? Is it about writing those perfect lines or letters on lines, or is it something actually deeper than that? Can you elaborate on that for us?
Absolutely. So I think everyone needs to, turn to their standards. In the state of Texas, we talk about, forming letters, but the term, if you will, handwriting is not used in our standards. So the idea of writing on lines, maybe practicing strokes, but the idea of on lines and penmanship and perfection is not in there. So I'd obviously say, turn to your standards. But when we think about writing, like if you were to Google, writing, like the definition, if you will, writing is defined as putting thoughts, ideas, and being able to communicate on paper, or, through words. But the idea is thoughts, ideas, and kind of unique communication. So think about 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and like the day that they, live at school. So many of the things that they do, they have ideas about. So here's another, little vignette from my boys. We build with magnetiles, and Wyatt typically builds with magnetiles, and then Jack typically builds with magnetiles. And Jack will probably clean his up, no problem. But Wyatt's creations, he wants to like leave intact. I've tried like that. Let me take a picture of it for you, and then we can look at it. And he's just like, no, I want it to stay there. And so right there, there's a purpose for writing. He could put a sign on his magnetiles that says, no, Jack, right? Like, no, Jack. That's communicating to his brother. He could write a message to me, please save. He could, maybe for someone who's not here when he's building magnetiles, make a label of what it is. Because sometimes it's a castle. Sometimes it's a bed for his Snoopy. Sometimes it's, and he could actually label kind of what it is. Just in building, there's purpose. He has thoughts. What was it the other day? Oh, he told me what we should get at the grocery store, right? So I was like, absolutely. And it was something that we're not going to get at the grocery store. But it was like, we should get that at the grocery store. And I said, you know what? I'm probably going to forget. So I'm going to give you this piece of paper and you write it down for me. And then I'll go put it with our grocery list. Purpose, communicate, message, right? And here's the other piece of it is it doesn't, when you go, look up writing defined, it doesn't say that what the marks that they put on the paper have to be some that a 40-year-old woman could read. That doesn't necessarily mean what it has to be. He knows what that says. If he tells me what that says, then now we have communicated and that writing has meaning. His meaning, his purpose, and again, playful.
Absolutely. And I think that that's really important for us to remember because as early childhood educators, we're so used to things being pushed down on us, or perhaps, these expectations we feel to get children, writing formally are huge, right? There's a lot of pressure and stress that goes on in teaching, and it's easy to fall victim to that pressure, well, Miss So-and-so's kindergarten class is writing paragraphs because, her standards say that. Well, her class can't write.
No, they don't.
I know they don't, but, her class isn't, they're not going to be able to write those paragraphs if indeed that is something they're doing. If they don't have this idea that writing is a form of communication, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like you can't tell a baby it's time to walk, get up and do it because you told them to. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work like that. Like there's a whole process that goes into this whole thing, right, Melissa?
Right. Absolutely. So I want to share, I think this is a good kind of a lead in. The other night, so I have, my two children. So I was doing bedtime with Jack. I was out of the picture. And when I came back in the picture from doing bedtime with Jack, there was my husband and Wyatt were doing bath time. And I just walked by the dining room table and I have to make sure I hold this up the right way, right? Because it's early childhood, writing. Mm-hmm. So, who knows which way it goes until you talk with the student, right? And so, this was just sitting on, my kitchen table. And I'm like, okay. Wow, there's a lot going on here. Those of you that can kind of, you're already clued in, there is something happening. Those are some letters, right? This, by the way, let me go back to it right here, is how Wyatt makes an A. That's his A. Every time he does it, it pains, seriously, every time he does it, it pains me. I'm like, that's not where the stick goes. But I'm like, okay, he knows it's an A. I know it's an A. We'll get there. But anyway, so I take this then, right? I take this writing and I take it into, he was in the bathtub and I was like, I don't care if you're in the bathtub, we're doing this right now. And so I put it right in front of him and I said, oh my goodness, what did you write? And he looked at me and I said, what did you write? Tell me about this. And he literally looked at me and he was like, right? And I said, okay, did you draw something? And he said, yeah. And so he told me this. Okay, I'm backwards in my way my finger has to go, on your Promethean or your dot cam, right? Okay, where this thing that you can see, that's a crocodile, y'all. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. Big, sharp teeth. Yeah. Right? And so I said, oh my goodness, tell me about that. And he said, there was a crocodile and it went chomp, chomp. And I said, okay, wow, what a cool story. I hope I don't run into that crocodile. And then down here I said, and what did you write? I'm totally going the wrong way. I know which way you're supposed to read from, but just bear with my finger here. I was like, and what did you write? And he looked at me and he did say, he said, those are the words. And I
Ah.
said, okay, like, he knows something goes, because we read every night, right? So he's starting to put those things together, like where the pictures are, where the words are. So he put the words. And I said, well, what do they say? And he said, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, if you're drawing about a crocodile and then you're going to write about the crocodile, your words say what your mouth just said. And he went, what? And I said, you said that your words say there was a crocodile and it went chomp chomp. So then those are the words you wrote. And he was like, yeah. And I said, so can you read it to me? And he said, can you read it to me? I said, sure. So again, I've very much separated myself from being mom versus being teacher. But right there, I realized an opportunity with my son is he hasn't, going to the words of Katie Wood Ray, he hasn't yet believed himself into being a writer. He put words, but he doesn't yet understand the words he put are the words like that come out of his mouth, like kind of making, that connection. So I thought, okay. And then I had another opportunity to be with him this morning. And we did some interactive writing. And I think show of hands, anyone familiar, with interactive writing, it's literally when you share the pen, and it is playful and it is fun. And while it isn't necessarily happening in a center, kids are like so into this. And so one of the things that we did, we listened to a story and then he had to write about his favorite part. And so what I'm trying to help him do now is think like, okay, he knows, by the way, all of his letters. I'd say I have not assessed him, but probably about 75% consistent with kind of letter sounds. And so I started passing the pen. So we wrote, I'll just kind of read it to you. It says, my favorite part is when she turned back to normal. It was a bad case of stripes. My favorite part is when she turned back to normal because she was so happy. And so I really just want to tune into a couple spots where I shared the pen. Can you see right there? That's turned. So he wrote the T. I did the U. Y'all, that's an R. It's got a crazy little string going up top, but it is an R, right? Straight line down, around, and a slant. And then he did the N, which looks like a W, upside down, but that's his N. And then I just added the ED, right? Now check this out. Also, playful, excitement. One thing we know about young children and, their access to letters, if you will, and sounds, is names of friends in their class. So I have been very poignant about, knowing who his friends are, what their names are, and making, references to them as much as I can. And so we had to write happy because it was because she was so happy. And so right here, he did everything in happy, y'all. Can you tell? Because Harper starts with an H. So there's his, looks like calligraphy-ish H. There's his beautiful A, because Harper is H-A, and he also has an A in his name. So he's got H-A. He knows P. There's his two P's. And then there's his Y, because he has a Y in his name. So those were letters that I felt he could totally write, because there was that playful, if you will, connection to his friends. And then I just want to also share this. I asked him, sometimes the teacher in me, mom, gets a little overexcited. And I just said, do you know what a period is? And he did not, right? And I just said, okay, well, we have them in books and we need one right here. Let me show you what it looks like. I don't know what that little thing is, y'all, that by the period. Oh, I said, do you know what a period is? And that's what he did. He's like, this? And I was like, no. So I showed him a period, and then he obviously had to give me the period at the end of happy. So, anything that we can do with those letters and letter sounds that's playful. Hopefully I'll have some time to go into that just a little bit more. But just this idea, what did you draw? Okay, well, tell me about it. Because the first thing is, you guys, if kids can't tell what the meaning is of their, their drawing, if they can't say it, they definitely can't write it.
Mm-hmm.
So we start just by, what did you write? Tell me about your picture. We ask questions to kind of draw out, that language from them. And then again, Wyatt knew something goes there. So he gave me, and when I look at it, it's typical to what a lot of children will do. They'll use kind of their most familiar or their most known letters in just some alternating, kind of fashion. So we've got lots of W's, lots of A's, a couple M's, a couple more A's. There's the L for Leach. But together, those are his words, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I would just continue to provide opportunities for kids to put their meaning on paper, their meaning in the block center. You probably have a designated, writing center. And then the question is, well, they don't ever go there. Okay. Well, one of the other things that I think we all know this is sometimes that novelty. So kind of any novelty that you can provide will get them over there. So one of the first novel things that I was like, okay, this is working. Let's keep working it. It's a JoJo Siwa pencil.
What's that?
He got it at Harper's. Vanessa. I will send you a link to her YouTube videos.
Oh, JoJo. Okay.
Yeah. Didn't I say that? Yeah, JoJo. Those big bows.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't have a frame of reference. Now I do.
Okay. Yes. It's a JoJo. She's on there singing with her microphone pencil. Okay. And he covets this. I had to ask if I could borrow it to use it for work today. So he will write forever if he has his JoJo Siwa pencil. The other thing that is drawing him out, and he wants to use them. You've seen these like tempera paint?
Oh yeah, those
markers.
Are cool. Yeah.
It's like gel pen or this. There's just like a different tactile feeling almost. Mm-hmm. And so he drew a roller coaster picture today, and then we attached an R by the roller coaster, stretched it out, wrote the other sounds we could hear. So these, obviously, all the different markers. I love Vanessa's website and how, like, everything she talks about, there's always a picture for it. Like, we love visuals. She's got beautiful pictures of a couple different writing centers, block centers that are incorporating all of these kinds of things. So that, and then the other thing, y'all, it's called Anything Goes here. He started writing with Flair pens. Mm. I don't care. Makes him happy. Do it. I can buy another set. Ink Joys, loves them. Like, he knows these are mama's pencils, right? Like, these are mommy's work pens and pencils, and he gets to use them. Purple, green, he gets that because I don't ever use green. So here. Anyway, he doesn't know that. I don't tell him I don't use green. You can have it. I let him know these are mommy's pencils. So anything, I'm bringing out colored pencils soon. And I even went and realized I still have a stash of chalkboards. And so again, that tactile, we do our, obviously writing on the driveway. Mm-hmm. And I've asked him, we write, and you don't do this at school, but you could definitely tell your families about this. We write in the bathtub. Mm-hmm. There are crayons and markers that you can use on tile. So we're just constantly, drawing and telling about our stories and doing anything that we can when playful and when, possible, to bring in, those letters and those letter sounds to help better communicate meaning if someone, if you weren't here to tell it to them. And that's kind of how I bring it up to him. I said, hey, so if you weren't here to tell somebody that this was your roller coaster picture, what letters would help them know that this is a roller coaster? And he'll say, that's an R, right? Yeah, let's write it, R. Okay. When I think about handwriting, that doesn't really sound fun. Like, it doesn't. And it isn't. Especially isn't when we have to have kids at that age really focusing on the lines, the top line and the midline and the baseline and which ones are tall. It makes I just want to write an L. Like, why do I have to think about all that? So one of the fun things that we can do, have you ever heard of what's it called? the verbal path for the formation of letters.
Mm-hmm.
If you just put that into Google, right? God love Google. If you just put that in Google, verbal path, right? The verbal path for the formation of letters, you'll get one. Programs that you may have for handwriting might already have them. But for example, and I'm going to be backwards when I do this probably for you, but when we do like the verbal path to make an A, it's straight line down, and across. When we do a lowercase a, it's around, up, and down. A B, straight line down and around, straight line down and around, straight line down and around. There's your little lowercase b. Pull back and around for a C. So you have kind of that verbal path. So I use that all the time when I am, working with Wyatt and when he says it's an R, right? And I'm like, yeah, how do you write an R? And I say straight line down, pull around, slant down. And he's like, oh. So ways that we practice handwriting at the drinking fountain potentially, right? You could practice writing 3 letters before you let them run out to recess. And if you know kind of the brain and that the idea of sort of crossing, that midline of your brain, you're doing that when you do these big motions and that big physical motions that lead to fine motor, motions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that there's even some songs out there that basically do the verbal pathways. Exactly. And I always would sing those in my class, and the kids would just know, they just got it. And it helps with those children who might sometimes struggle or have a difficult time. Mm-hmm. It helps them quite a bit, but it helps all children for sure.
Yeah. Cause it has to travel, right? So you say A, and maybe they're thinking apple. Mm-hmm. And they can get to A. And then you're like, but how do I write an A? There's just so many different places that this has to go before it can end up on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And so as many supports as we can give to kids, the better. So first we're going to have, planned and places in our classroom where they can write. And then we're going to, give them the tools that are going to make them more confident in doing the writing. Right. So one more of those tools, I said I have that verbal path. It might be a song. Again, it could be a song, but just make sure you know it so that you can be using it, referencing it. You can't go play the song all the time. So even if you typed out for yourself, the lyrics of that song, so you could kind of refer to it, right? Type out the lyrics. You could just Google that too, right? All right, here we go. But if you don't already have what we call, it's got a little glare because it is laminated. That's one reason why you don't laminate a lot of the things you put on your walls, right? Because there's always a glare. So this is one of the things that we also provide for students, which is we call it an alphabet linking chart. Mm-hmm. So again, a phonics program that you have in your district or in your school, they will have one. But the idea is that when you say A, apple, to a student's mind. When you say B, bear, comes into a student's mind. Cat and dog and egg and fish, okay? Rather than you say A, and in your classroom, no matter where they look, is some different representation of A. There's apple over here and ant over there and some other thing they don't even know what it is for A, Alaska over there. That's really confusing. And again, it's really hard to kind of make that one link and that one connection to. So you talk about, I am not doing this on camera, but you want to talk about being playful with this. I have in my seminars caught myself doing it. We rap this. We dance this full out, right? A, apple, B, bear, C, cat, right? You get it, right? It's enough. You don't need any more. But the kids have a blast, being able to do this. Again, you have songs. Is there one song that you're like, that's our link? That's it. I will go and we'll use this song. And if it says apple, I'll go get a little clip art for an apple. You can make your own ABC linking chart if you want to. But just knowing, think about in your classroom how many places you've represented A. And again, that's really hard for some kids. So here I am in the block area and I want to say no, I want to say don't touch. And I'm like, duh, duh, that's a dog, dog. And there it is. I see the dog, so I can have the D, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for the dog to find that letter. And then I write don't. Now I need a T. That's turtle. Where's the turtle? That's a T. Because I don't so much have what the letter looks like. I have the sound. I have the letter name, and I have the thing that starts with that sound. So if I can look for that item, if you will, that thing, then I can find that letter. Because if it isn't in my name, that's a really weird letter. And I need some help.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I have newfound respect for you. I've never known you to rap before, but now.
Yeah.
Now.
Sign me up for a session next year at the summit, okay?
Yeah, right. That'll be an interesting
Rapping
one for
with
sure.
Leach.
So yeah, those are some great ideas. And I really like the way you put the linking chart into perspective for us, because so many times we tell our teachers to use linking charts, but we really don't go into detail into how these are really useful for kids. We just say, here's a useful tool, but you really broke it down for us. And it's not something where they just sit and, write the letters they see or recite or whatever. They're actually, these are tools, just like you would use, just like a construction worker uses tools to build a house. These are tools to help them.
Absolutely. And let me just also, I know, Vanessa, you have things on your website about like a letter wall.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So this would be kind of our ABC linking chart when we are helping kids to learn what each one of these letters are, what sound they make, and kind of have that connection. Now, there is probably another place in your day, another spot, potentially, wall space, where you have brainstormed all the things that start with A. That's alliteration, right, at work. Mm-hmm. So A is ant and apple and Alaska and ant, like the ant that crawls on the ground, and the ant who's your mom's sister, and I can't think of any more A things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It keeps on going, right? You have that, and then you have the B list. You have that somewhere. But when you're like, I need an A, an apple. Mm-hmm. You need the letter that goes with apple, folks. That's what you need. And the other thing to consider, I know some of you are working, you have a 3-year-old classroom and then go on to the 4-year-old classroom. If there's any chance of being able to have continuity, please, your 3-year-olds should not be met as 4-year-olds with a whole other link to letters that they need to learn, right? That's really hard.
Yeah.
So having as much continuity as we can as we span up.
That's great. I agree totally. And that's why a lot of school districts try to have that continuity between grade levels as well. So anything you can do in your younger grades is great too. So we've talked a lot about, how children come to see themselves as writers by writing to communicate, right? We've talked about that. Writing.
Yeah.
Playful writing, ways that you can make writing playful and to help your kids understand this connection between what we say with our mouths can also be represented on paper. And, and then I know, because I know our viewers, I know you guys, you're out there and you're thinking, but my kids just don't have the fine motor skills to be writing anything. My first thought is, again, what is your idea of writing? Is it these perfect letters on the perfect lines? Or, what would you say to somebody who might be thinking that? I know there's people out there thinking that right now. So what would you say to those folks who think that their kids just don't have that fine motor skills?
So, everything that kids are doing in their day is building fine motor. It's like literally give them some paper and have them tear it. And that is fine motor development. All of our, practice cutting. That's why we give tongs, at the water table, pick it up, drop it over here. Play-Doh, just manipulating anything that they're doing, those muscles that we just take for granted need development, right? So we're going to be doing all of that simultaneously to putting writing utensils in kids' hands, right? And they may not have the perfect fine motor development. And you know what? They may be writing for you, and God forbid they're holding it like this. But you know what? We can write, which is communicate ideas, thoughts. I mean, even if it is a couple scribbles on a piece of paper, but when I say, wow, tell me about this. And he's like, that's me flying kites. And that's Bryn, and that's Nora. That was Wyatt's first representation of something that had meaning. I didn't know until I asked him, but that was his first thing that he ever did. I took a picture of it that represented meaning. Like, that's me flying a kite. Okay. And he did hold his utensil like that. You know what? But the other day I looked at him, and it's all his teachers. But the other day I looked at him, and he was actually holding it the way you're supposed to. And I thought, when did that happen? Right? It's just like, he's got it. Right? Meanwhile, next to him, my 2-year-old son is also writing, and it looks like that. And he looks like this holding it. But there you go. And I think, so again, it's a kind of that simultaneous thing. So we're going to do all the things that are going to build fine motor. And sometimes we don't even know why we're doing these things. Like, we have Play-Doh, and we're like, oh, because it keeps them happy and it's fun and it's tactile. Yeah, but it also, especially if you are modeling some of the specific things to do with Play-Doh, and specific ways to use the Play-Doh and to make different textures in the Play-Doh. If you model things like that, it's absolutely fine motor. And who would have thought that just being over there tearing paper, making a mess, they love it, tearing paper, is actually fine motor.
Yeah.
So simultaneously with the fun, play things that we do for fine motor, we're going to also be still putting utensils in hand. And, and sometimes a child who might be ready for this might pick up that pencil like that, and you say, hey, let's just work on it. Let me help you. And then you put it in their finger, and they try. And I also just kind of, respond, if you don't think that their fine motor is there yet, it's not going to get any closer to being there if they don't write.
That's right.
So it's a learning curve. It's a growing. Again, it's taking everything in my being not to step in with that letter A. And I will soon. Don't judge me. I will pretty soon be like, let's just look. This is an A. What do we do different to your A? What looks different? I'll get there. But right now, I can't do it. I can't do it. That's his A. He knows A. He's proud of A. And we're going to let that go.
Absolutely. And, you were talking about Wyatt's letter A and how the little line, kind of looks like a lollipop to me,
It does. Or a balloon. I've asked him, is that a balloon? No, that's an A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's, I always tell teachers this in relation to letters. Like, when you show a child, and forgive all the teachers out there who've heard me say this 8 million times, but if you show a child the letter M, and that child and you ask them what letter that is, and the child says cow or moo, and you're like, right? What?
Right.
I always tell teachers that that's actually a cause for celebration, because they understand that letters have shapes and they have names, but they just didn't give it the right name. So in your case, with Wyatt, in his writing, he understands that, the shapes that he makes on paper, right? They have purpose and they have meaning, and that's huge. That is like one of the very first steps in becoming.
Stages. We're in a stage, folks. We're in a stage.
Yes. And sometimes I think teachers can be sometimes held back by the notion that the A needs to look like a circle with the stick down the side, and it needs to look perfect in order to be counted as the letter A. And I think that we have to understand that that is not actually how writing works. Eventually we want it to look like that.
Right. But you know what? That's not our ask. It's not in our range. Like that's, I hope one reason why you chose to be an early childhood educator is because there are some things that are just not asked of us. That's not us. And so perfect handwriting and fixing all those little, nuances. Like, honestly, if you are sending 3-year-olds into their 4-year-old, pre-K setting, if you will, some of you have like blended, 3-4-year-old. But if you could send a 3-year-old into a 4-year-old pre-K, being able to put marks on paper and tell you that means something, props, that's it. If you could send 4-year-olds into kindergarten with that understanding that letters make sounds, and that sometimes we use, letters to put with our writing, or even if you sent me a kid, if you sent me a kid that could do this at the beginning of kindergarten, just knows something goes here. All the ones I can write too. Like, hey, look at me, I got all these. Do the work as a kindergarten teacher to help them understand the connection between what they draw and what they want to say about it. It connects. It's all kind of developmental. Vanessa, do you have anything on your site about the developmental stages of writing? I'm sure you do.
I'm not sure. I have some examples. I can't think off the top of my head because now we have 1,500 pages there, but there are stages that children go through, and it's really important that we as early childhood educators are familiar with those stages so that we can understand where our children are and where they're going to go next. Like,
Yep. And to realize, like, did you see me celebrate? We're in a stage.
Yes.
like I'm excited. We're in a stage. We're somewhere. And the only place to go is to another next stage, right? And I don't know when that happens. It's not like there's like a, machine that he's moving through, but we're in a stage, and then we can kind of see what those future stages look like. And it's, you are a grown adult right now, and you can do all these things, but you were in those stages too. You were in those stages as well. Somewhere potentially, there's a record of writing that you have like this too. I don't,
That's true. So, yeah, absolutely.
But just celebrating those stages and encouraging and smiling and playing. It's play. Writing is play. It's the work of play right now for our kiddos.
It is. And play is what is the vehicle that we know that helps children learn best. So when we provide them with playful opportunities, like you were showing us your mommy markers or pens that Wyatt was using, that's so exciting. I remember I was trying to get my nephew, who's 3.5, to participate in some dramatic play with me not long ago. And I
do you have a video of this? That's what I'd like to see.
No. Oh, his parents don't like him to be on social media, but he clearly loves to take people's orders, with paper, and he's been using a pen because that's what his parents have laying around really easily. So I didn't make that connection because I'm not there all the time. So I brought pencils. And I brought paper that, like a little guest check or whatever. And I handed those to him, and he looked at the pencil and he went, "No, I don't like that." Because pencils are what he writes with at school, or what they use at school.
Boring.
He was like, "I want that. Those pens there, Daddy's pens that he keeps on his desk." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't really care how he does it." Right. But those it was important to him. It wasn't important to me which tool he used. And
so that also, like right there, it might strike some fear, right? So Jack actually got a hold of a flare pen, and ran off with it. And I got 2 kids now, so I can't keep up with both of them all the time. And so I look and I was like, wait, where'd Jack go? And where'd that orange flare pen go? And I look, and he was on the leather couch, right? So you might be thinking about your classroom. Like, notice I did not say, and here are mommy's cool Sharpies. Like, that's no. But like have you diaper wipes? Diaper wipes got away from me, and I took a diaper wipe on the leather. Done. Gone. Diaper wipes.
Right.
Cleans everything.
And you know what else, Melissa, is that when you decided to have children, you didn't think to yourself, what if they write on my sofa with a pen? That wasn't part of your thought process, right? So I always tell teachers who are afraid of what children will do with any kind of writing tool, and I just call it the cost of doing kid business. Honestly, I mean, we can't let that hold us back from teaching. If the worst thing that if the worst thing that happens to you in your classroom today, teachers, is that a child writes on your desk with a pen, then you're doing good.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
True.
So, Melissa, we've talked so far about all kinds of obviously great information as always, but what about teachers who are ready to take the plunge and maybe add more playful opportunities for writing into their classrooms daily? Do they need a bunch of expensive stuff? Because that's often what holds us back as teachers too. What can they do to get started on this journey of playful writing that's not going to break the bank?
I mean, the I think most genuine playful writing that we've talked about, in here today, is just going to happen with some markers, which are part of your, supplies every year, pencils, pens, the basics, paper. Maybe you find some, different novelty, in the paper. So actually I have a blog post. So I have a blog. It's called, you can get there at leachliteracytraining.com. And so, you go there, and I have a blog, and I just collected a whole bunch of different paper options. So getting creative in the papers, like maybe kids are going to be writing books one time at the Writing Center. Maybe another time they are going to be making a brochure about something. I think I had paper options that, if you, when you go to the hotel or something and you have like a little door hanger, there's papers where they could, design that. Even, decorating or writing and drawing on a brown paper bag, like varying the color choices, that the paper has. Those kinds of things. It's the basics. It really, there are, if you go and look at, things that can stock your Writing Center. So you could have ABC stamps, and you can have, fancy stuff. But really, if you want kids to have authentic, playful, and be able to use it anywhere with any purpose, it's just paper.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And sometimes the paper doesn't have to be, you don't have to go to your local craft store and spend a ton of money on paper. My kids really liked index cards. You can buy them at the dollar store. They come in different colors. And they're great because if you grab one, you can actually kind of write on it without like a hard surface. So if you needed to write, and they're colorful, so they could put those on their work, their castle, or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
They think those are cool. And then Post-it notes are one that my kids love. Now, I'm not saying that I gave them 800 Post-it notes and went broke, but I'm saying that sometimes, a Post-it note, how does Wyatt feel about Post-it notes? Does he ever use those?
We haven't yet but we are going to. I just took stock in how many Post-it notes I had, and I was like, okay, when I run out of Post-it notes, we'll just cut little squares of paper and I'll use little tape. It was actually really funny. I was using sticky tack the other day, and he said, my teacher has that. And I said, I'm a teacher too. I have it. So anyway, I took stock of my Post-it notes, and we are going to we're going to walk around this house and talk about the different things, and then write the letter for what it begins with, and just it's going to drive my husband bonkers, and I kind of can't wait to be like, what are all these things we're here? What is it about little kids, and just like you talked about index cards because it's little, Post-it notes, they're little. What is it about kids and just loving things that are little? Like if you just cut the paper smaller, they're more apt, to take it. And I don't even think that we need to spend a lot of we call them like copy counts or clicks on the copy machine. I wouldn't even spend a lot of time making, okay, it's Valentine's Day, so let's go make copies of this heart paper. they might have two kids that want, to have copies of the heart paper. And the other kids are going to feel like, I don't want heart paper on my castle, or I don't want heart paper on my story about my dirt bike. So if we don't have a form to the paper, it can become whatever it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? So I don't even think we need thematic paper. I think we just need paper, a variety of sizes, and let kids do what. And I know this strikes fear too, but maybe kids don't actually use it. But if they know that they can use it with the help of an adult, when you put a stapler into the mix. So now, what would you do if you could staple together, 4 Post-it notes? Or if you could have a piece of paper and put 2 Post-it notes on the side of it? Whoa. They start just doing, I don't even know, things that kids do. You don't know until you give them the things and let them do, right?
Yeah, a stapler really does. It's a game changer because I would have kids go over to the stapler and they'd look at it and they'd be like, this isn't a tool that I've ever used before. I don't have, I either don't have one at home or I'm not allowed to use it. Like, they'd look around like, is anyone watching me? Can I use this? And I'd be like, yeah, go for it. And just the look on their face when they stapled 2 tiny pieces of paper together was just like, and now I have a book. And they would just be motivated. Yeah.
And you know what else? That when they're stapling, guess what else they're doing?
Fine motor.
Building fine motor development. Like, that is a muscle that is being used in the palm of however they do it, if they squeeze or if they just push down, y'all.
Yeah.
Fine motor.
Exactly. It's so funny how you mentioned that, why it said my teacher has that. And you were like, Mommy's a teacher too. Well, that same exact thing happened to me recently. I went to my nephew's preschool classroom and I met his teacher and I got to look around the room. I got to watch him sign in on his little sign-in sheet. And then I was invited to kind of stay for a few minutes, and the teacher asked him, or maybe it was his mother who asked him, would you like Nessie, that's what he calls me, would you like Nessie to read a story to the class? And he looked and he was like, that's Mrs. H's job, like his teacher's job. And his mom was like, but Nessie was a teacher too. And he just went, no.
I know. You don't really have any cred.
No, I don't.
No.
It's funny. But anyway, I think that you've given us some great ideas of playful opportunities. I think it's this whole thing that we're talking about, Melissa. This isn't groundbreaking, earth-shattering new news in the early childhood field. What I think that we're trying to do is we're trying to create a mindset shift from, am I right? Would you agree with that?
Well, I hope that teachers who are listening to this have been given grace with this conversation and almost permission to go back to what we know is best for kids. And it's give them paper, give them permission, give them, I talk about it as, the things that young riders need is they need cheerleaders, like be their cheerleader. And it's hard sometimes when you don't have any cheerleaders, that are coming at you with the cheerleader mentality. But be their cheerleader as much as possible. That's really what they need, and permission to be able to be playful with pens and paper. I think we're giving that permission back to early childhood educators and to kids.
Yeah. And I think also letting them decide what to write about, whether they want to write on their castle or what they want to write in their little book or what, giving them, it doesn't matter to me what my kids write as long as they want to do it,
Absolutely.
I'm sure that whatever Wyatt wanted to write on his castle to tell Jack not to touch it, we won't tell him that Jack can't read.
Right. No, of course not.
Then, that would be fine with you. If he was making the marks in deciding what it said, that is way more important than what the marks look like, right?
Exactly. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
So what hurts my teacher heart the most, Melissa, is when I hear teachers say, well, for the first half of the year, we're going to be practicing these strokes every day in our writing time, and so they're going to spend a week just tracing diagonal lines. And then we're going to do the straight line, and then we're going to try to do a circle. And then in January, then we'll start teaching formal writing. And that hurts my teacher heart because we're taking it away from them. Show it to us again.
All right. I'm just coming back to this, right? It hurts my teacher heart too to think of doing that because, again, they're practicing motions, if you will, but they're not making any connections to those motions. Like, why am I doing this? No idea, right? Whether they could still be practicing those motions when you were, skywriting the ABCs. We can do the motions more authentically and playfully. But if you study this little picture here, you guys, Wyatt was making those motions. What is this up, down, up, down? Aren't those the slants?
Yes.
There's a big slant. There's another slant. I don't know. I didn't get the details about what that is, but there's a circle. I don't know where it goes. Like, he's doing this just in his own creation and in drawings. Like, we do not need to sit there and have them do that out of context practice.
Right.
That it's not.
Yeah.
It's not the work of young children.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir. I love it because that is exactly, the way you pointed out the strokes and Wyatt's writing, that right there was powerful. So that brings me to, Melissa, what's that one gold nugget you want everyone to walk away with? I kind of feel like that one gold nugget was what you just showed us with the strokes, but you tell me what you think it is. What's that one thing that you want everyone watching this session today to walk away from? It's going to be different for each person.
I think, like, when we first started, this conversation, and you asked, or you said that, sometimes teachers say, my kids don't like to write. I think what I am hopeful that everyone that's watching this will walk away with is realizing what writing really is. And I invite you, challenge you maybe is a better word, I don't know, but to go back and find joy in cultivating whatever it may look like for kids in your classroom, but really to kind of assess how you've been going at this in years past or what have you, and what changes you may make. And again, they're simple. They don't require you to buy anything, but just changes that you might make to your own kind of thought about what writing has been in the past to, how it's going to go back or go forward into 2021.
Yeah. So excellent as always. Always a great time talking with you because you and I speak the same language. But tell us where, if any of our viewers out there watching want to continue the conversation with you, tell us where's the best place to find you online.
Absolutely. So leachliteracytraining.com is my website. You'll be able to see on there more about the work that I do, by way of presentations for teachers, on-campus support, model lessons, coaching, all of that. Also at leachliteracytraining.com, you can access that blog that I was telling you about. So you actually find it at the very bottom when you scroll. You'll find it at the very bottom, and it'll just say, check out the blog. So have a look around there. There's a lot of different activities and such. And also just a little thing, everything on my blog is free. It may take you to my Teachers Pay Teachers page where everything is free. So my life's work is actually traveling out and working directly with teachers and for teachers. So I give away free to teachers because I'm really hopeful that your principal, your site director, would want me to come and be able to work, in person with you. You can also, we just started an Instagram. So Leach Literacy It might be, we just started Instagram. That's why I have to check. It might be Leach Literacy Training. It probably is. Leach Literacy Training on Instagram. Hold on, I'm verifying that for sure. Leach Literacy Training on Instagram, and then also Leach Literacy Training on Facebook, and Leach Literacy Training on Twitter.
And we'll put those links below your video
Perfect.
as well. So I want to thank you again, Melissa, for joining us today. And thank you to all of you who tuned in and joined us. So if you would like to spend a little more time with this session or any of the others that we discussed here in the summit, don't forget you can bring them home with you along with some fantastic bonuses. Just click on the link below, and don't forget, prices go up the day after the conference ends. Thanks again for watching. I'm Vanessa Levin. This is Melissa Leach. Thank you, Melissa.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you all next
Bye,
time.
y'all.
Bye.